Okay guys and girls, as you can see I've put together the tail. I have made slots in the trailing edge of the fin. Sorry about the camera. I put trailing slots in the trailing edge of the fin there and matched them up with the elevator. I just popped in the 2mm gauge new piece there and just left it overnight after using epoxy, and it's come out okay, given everything good sanding down. The balsa is so soft that I had to use some filler to fill in a few dinks here and there, so when it comes to covering it should be okay. Now don't forget that after you've given it a good old sanding down, to put a slight bevel on that leading edge of the elevator, top and bottom. Doesn't have to be too sharp, just top and bottom, so you can get that movement there. Similar story with the fin and the rudder. They are actually much easier to put together, and again, once you put it together, make sure to get a good sanding, and at this leading edge of the rudder is beveled, and then that's ready to be put to one side, and you can make up your hinges a little bit later. And then moving swiftly onto the undercarriage, I've made sure I've read this a few times because I want to get this absolutely spot on. When you come to pin this down, you've got all these parts together here, just glue them together. Put a pin through where the axle goes, okay, offer up the, I think it's 20mm gauge wire here, and I've got this to fit spot on. So what you do, once you got that to fit spot on to the drawing, put your pin in the middle, put your wire in, make sure it lines up with everything, and then put some spots of sino on, let it go off, and then you can afford then to put more sino in to make sure that that wire is in the correct place, and that what you'll end up with, basically, if I take you over here, is this is your wire, yeah, and your pin will rest in like that, so that keeps that wire in the same place, and then the axle goes through it. Now I've been through what's been supplied, and they gave me that for the axle. Well, the thing is, right, that axle is not long enough, so I'm gonna have to find some more 20 gauge wire to get it from there to there. So that's where we're at, and as soon as I got two of these together, I'll come back to you. The wing alignment jig, which is on sheet 2. So rather than pull all of sheet 1 off and everything else, I cut a piece of plastic and I just put everything over the top, and wham bam, there you go. Bunch of instructions here. However, please be aware there is a drawing here of the jig, and I'm taking it that that is exactly the same as that. So I'm going to let it set and we're going to find out. In the meantime, I have trial fit the tail fins on, and they seem to be okay, and I'll come back to that in just a second. Right, the tail plane. Now with the elevators, you'll notice I put some mylar strip in here. This is just very thin plastic but stiff. I put my own in because I think the ones I use are better. And you put one mylar in here, one mylar in there. Make sure you line up the slots, and you've got a nice cut in there through the middle. Doing it by ruler is not really advisable. I'll use that little thing. Actually, where is it? There it is. These are a little bit difficult to get hold of. You can get them. I can't remember what they're called, but if you put in centre line, hobbyist or something, I don't know. So I don't know. You find out. Anyway, so when it comes to the horizontal, you do more or less the same here, here, and one at the very bottom. This slots in here. Now you have to slot this in first before you trial fit the rudder, and the reason is on the very bottom here, if I can get it lined up, there's another hinge, and put another mylar hinge in there, right there. So you have to cut ever so carefully a little slot in the back there, but be aware you need this little whole piece here. Can I get a decent shot? Free for the elevators to move. Okay, so that's where we're at with that, and that's not really difficult. I don't think I really need to go in mad deep detail over that, but it does give you a nice good idea of where you should be by now. So that's what you should end up with at this stage. Obviously you may not have covered this, and you may have it in red, but I'm going green because I am proper. Now I did do the wheels. The wheels are, yeah, hang on a minute, I'll come back to that. Right then, the wheels. Now what I did do was very carefully cut out the hubs, which on the real SE5a would be a fabric. And because I'm going green, because you've got to go green these days, I happen to have some dark green Tamiya spray paint, so I put them. I still got these little stands on it. Oh, they're over there. I got some. Oh, sorry. Hang on a second. Sorry about the wait. So what I did basically was I got this what do you call it, blue tack. So stuck what was left of the exhaust port on the model, the offcut. Stuck this in some blue tack. Put some blue tack under here. Balance that on top of there. So looks a bit like a Chinaman fishing, if you like. So that stayed there. Got my Tamiya spray, sprayed it, let it dry, and then I put a spray varnish on the top, and it's come out not too bad. So they will go into, in actual fact I've not trial fit this yet, like that. There you go. Well, obviously I've got to get this dead on right, but for all intents and purposes that's what it will look like. And you have an aluminium tube. Now in the instructions it tells you to use a very sharp junior hacksaw. I think that's probably the worst idea in the whole world. I just got a really sharp knife, which I may have lying here. It is. I just used that, put it on the cutting board and just rolled it like that till it went through. Got myself a 1mm drill bit, put it in my hand, offered it up to get rid of the burr. Perfectly all right. This rubber bit, I think it's a measurement of 127mm, which is 12.2 and a bit centimeters, and you glue them to there, join them together with a bit of sino, and that's that. You get two ply bits here, a centre ply bit, and then you put these little winglet things in, which is, I would take it to support this, and then that goes on to the undercarriage, and that slots in there. Now there's a reason why that pokes out so much, because this is on an angle. Now things, I wish they'd tell you these things, because then you'd understand why you've got to do them. Oh yeah, I've got to trim that off. But that keeps it, acts as a spacer, it keeps it away from that so it doesn't rub against it. Now to my mind that's not very well put together, if I'm being honest, but you know what, you only need them for landing and taking off, so, or taking off and landing. Yeah. But that's basically how they go together. Now, here's the thing, and this is where I should have made a bit of a video, but I didn't. I was just overcome with trying to get this thing done, if I'm being honest. I put the fuselage upside down, fitted this in, and then got it all lined up. And there's a little jig that goes in the middle here, which I've just thrown over there. And then while it was upside down, I made up some epoxy and put loads into here and here and just let it sink in and dry. And that's been dried now for about 4 or 5 hours, and it's okay, it's no problem. And with the axle was too short, so I managed to find a bit of wire I had hanging around, put that in instead, because it was just too short, so I used some I got left over. You clamp it with the is it F5 and F4? It's 4 and 5 anyway, and then just get a knife and just shave it all off, and then it goes to a sort of a point at the end, and then sand it, just sand it to shape. It doesn't take very long. I put a bit of tape along here to make a straight line so that it will all come out symmetrical, and with the front you can just do it by eye, you know, there's no great thing about it. And there's my little marking, so I know which is which, because obviously all the bits when you have it the plan are that way up, and they're the inside of the landing gear, so the downside on the plan is the outside. And what I may do is I'll get the crayons out and put the lines of wood in it and rub it, and then we'll see how that looks, and it should be alright, I think. With the wire, actually the wire wasn't too bad. I had to adjust it slightly to make it work, but only a little bit. And as soon as I knew it was right and everything else, I pinned it to the board, and I just put loads and loads of sign on, just absolutely loads of sign on. But I knew it was right. And then, as I said, I put it all into the fuselage loose with the little jig that goes in here. Have I still got it? Yes, I have. Here it is. There you go. And that goes in there like that. Okay, and that lines up. You put it into the model's upside down. Make sure everything's square and it's how it should be before you put any glue on it. Check it, double check it, measure twice, cut once, and then make up your epoxy and just put it in and just let it sink in, and that'll make that nice. It's solid. That's absolutely solid. And for long as you've double checked your wire, which I did, it's go straight in and come straight out. So I'm not really concerned about how that's going to turn out. It doesn't look very pretty, I have to admit. I think if given the choice, I would have made all of this out of one piece, because it's not going to be that difficult to draw around that, cut it out of one piece. But I did it to the drawing. It's a bit messy, if I'm being honest with you. So putting the crayon lines in it for resembling wood, I think would not be a bad thing. So there you go. That goes on there. Carefully. There you go. There's a little pin which I don't want to take out the box. The little, I don't really call it pink or bronze. The little pin there, well, like a ring, that goes on the end. You glue it on. Once it's dried, snip the excess wire off, which I think is 20 gauge, and then you put on the rather carefully, I would imagine, if you want a better word, your hubcap, so that'll go on there, and that's it. That's all you got to do. And then when you've covered it, cover the fuselage, you know, you can pop that in with some epoxy. So that's where we're at now, and that's where hopefully you should be at some point. I hope these tips so far have been useful to you, and well, hopefully that jig should be dry by now. Anyway, I'm turning in for the night. I'm pretty sure the other half will be glad to see me. Cheerio for now.